Hey, what's up YouTube? This is Guy. Today on the review table we're checking out something that I think is both very underappreciated and pretty darn cool. It is the Seiko reference SSB031 Chronograph wristwatch. I say that I feel like it's a little underappreciated because frankly nobody's really talking about this watch. I don't see it mentioned or recommended anywhere online in the forums, discussion groups, other people's videos, and that's a shame. This is a really nice, really high value wristwatch. I didn't even know it existed until I was specifically out there looking for a chronograph style wristwatch to review for the channel, and I found that on Amazon, and I was like, I think that's it. I'm going to pick it up, I'm going to check it out, and I like it quite a bit. I was thinking to myself, what would be a cool, fairly decent representation, a stand-in, or maybe an alternative to, of course, the venerable Omega Speedmaster. And I stumbled upon this watch and I said, man, I think that's it. Yeah, it is not the caliber and the quality of craftsmanship that you're going to find in an Omega watch. This watch comes in at a price point of around $150 as of today, February 19th. So let's not delude ourselves into thinking that this is a direct comparison or replacement for Omega Speedmaster. It is not. But a high value alternative to the Speedmaster? Maybe yes. I mean, it has a lot of things going for it. Number one, it is an extremely sharp looking watch. Of course, we have the tachometer fixed bezel. It's got a black finish, and you know, that's obviously reminiscent of the Speedmaster. Black dial, black subdials, nice handset and markers. It's not a direct copy by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think that this would be a very good stand-in or alternative for somebody that A, doesn't have the money, or B, does not just feel like spending the money on a multi-$1,000 Omega wristwatch. First things first, we'll talk about the dimensions of this watch and the basic specifications. The dimensions, we've got a 40, not including the crown and pushers, we have a 40 millimeter case, which is right on the money, perfect size for most people looking to buy this style of wristwatch. 20 millimeter lugs, which again is right on the money. The thickness on this guy, I forget off the top of my head, so I'm going to remeasure it on camera here with you guys. Looks like it's about 12 millimeters thick, and the overall lug-to-lug width, which again I don't remember, I forgot to write some of this stuff down, about 47 millimeters. So just excellent sizing and proportions all around. It is not too big. It will fit nearly any wrist, and it's going to be a real crowd pleaser, I think. Again, I think it's super underappreciated. I don't know why it's not more popular, more talked about. I suppose it's probably because it's Quartz Movement. Let's talk about that movement real quick. It's the 6T63 Seiko Movement, Quartz Movement. It runs on a, let me look at my notes here real quick, SR936SW battery, which should have about a 3-year battery life. Now, you're going to get plus or minus 20 seconds per month of accuracy out of this watch, which is pretty typical for a quartz powered movement. Some of the other features about this movement, it's got 1/5 second chronograph stopwatch, and measures up to 60 minutes. And we'll talk about those features and functions of the stopwatch here in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's a Quartz Movement, you know, there's not a whole lot to really say about it. It's super reliable, dependable, long-lasting. It might be just the perfect thing for somebody. Now, I always, whenever I do a review of a quartz watch, I have people that come into my video and they bash the watch that's under review. They bash Quartz Movement watches in general. I'd never spend that kind of money on a watch that's a battery-powered Quartz Movement, blah, 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 whatever. I do not fall into that camp. I do not subscribe to that mentality. I like quartz-powered watches. I like automatic mechanical watches too, and probably more, if we're being honest, than I like quartz. But I like having a watch that I can put in my watch case and maybe, you know, once or twice a month, wear it for a few days at a time, and know that it's going to be running and it's going to be accurate and it's going to be ready to throw on whenever I need it. That's great. Accuracy, like I said, plus or minus 20 seconds per month, so I know when I look down at my wrist that I'm going to be reasonably in the ballpark of the proper time. Overall, I think that anyone that bashes Quartz Movement watches, particularly decent or good quality ones like the one that we're looking at here today, I think they're just being closed-minded. I'm sorry if, you're in the camp that doesn't like them and would never own them, and you think that I'm wrong or that I'm, bashing you. I'm not. You're more than entitled to your opinions, but I would suggest that maybe try to be a little open-minded and accept that there are a lot of really decent quartz watches out there, not including this one, and you should check them out. Anyway, moving on. So we have Quartz Movement. We have awesome size and proportions, and very, very great styling. Speaking of the styling, let's take a closer look at this thing. The case is pretty typical Seiko design case, polishing on the sides that are all fingerprinted up, as you can see. Nice lug dimensions. On the other side of the case here, we have the crown. It's not a screw-down crown, and we have the two pushers to operate the chronograph, hollow end links, and attaching onto this stainless steel bracelet. And we'll talk about the bracelet a little bit. It's probably one of the few downsides about this watch. But, overall, the styling of the case, it's typical Seiko. Decent finishing, but not outstanding. Just good. Again, typical of what you find at watches in this price point, not just Seiko, but, any watch, really. Now, the really nice stuff about this is, of course, the dial and the bezel. We have this tachymeter bezel, which, again, is very reminiscent, black finished bezel, very reminiscent of the Speedmaster. And then we have 3 subdials on our main dial, white markers, applied markers, mind you, and handset. We got a little bit of red accents at the 12, 3, 6, and 9. Hash marks on that outer chapter ring, which I think is a nice addition to the design. And of course, the main chronograph hand is painted red as well. So this is, again, a 1/5 second 60-minute chronograph. We can only measure up to 60 minutes at a time. And the way that it functions is pretty straightforward. The top pusher starts the chronograph, so we'll go ahead and give it a little click. And you can see that chronograph hand starts off. This doesn't do split times at all. It's just start, stop, and reset. So when we're done measuring our, using the stopwatch or the chronograph, you push that top button again to stop it, and then the bottom pusher is the reset. And it's a very quick mechanical feeling snap back to the 12 o'clock position. I think that the quality of the chronograph is pretty decent. But again, it doesn't do split times like some other chronographs do. I don't think that's important personally. I'm not too worried about that. But if that's something that you're looking for, that option isn't here. Now, we have, again, 3 subdials. The 3 o'clock subdial is a 24-hour subdial. And, of course, the hour hand is in the way right now. But you can see that it looks like it's about to be 1,700 hours. Down at the 6 o'clock subdial, we have the running seconds. So this is the current seconds. Obviously, the big hand in the pointing to the 12 o'clock position is not the current running seconds. So, right there on the bottom, you can see it's 24, 25 seconds, 26 seconds. So, it's 4, 55, and 30 seconds. That's our running seconds. And then over at the 9 o'clock subdial, we're looking at the minute counter for the chronograph. So when we start the chronograph and it's running, every minute that little chronograph or subdial hand will tick up, and that'll count our current running minutes for the stopwatch. That's basically, the functionality of the chronograph and all of the subdials. Of course, down between 4 and 5 o'clock, we have a date window. It's pretty nicely presented. It's not difficult to read. It's not too recessed. Overall, the date window is fine. I'm not a huge fan of offset date windows like that. But that's just a style and aesthetic thing. You know what I mean? It's not bad. Most people aren't going to mind it, I don't think. But I don't really like the asymmetry of it. I'd probably prefer just having no date window. From a design standpoint, but of course functionally, rather, having a date is handy. We all realize that. Again, I mentioned all of the markers are nice applied markers. They got a little stainless steel outline, and depending on how good we can get them to show up on the camera there, I'll give you guys a nice look at them. They're well done. I like the markers. I like the whole dial layout, honestly. I think it's a very handsome dial. The handset, it's a little boring. It's just kind of like fence post style hands. The hour is a little bit stubbier. The minute hand is elongated and thinner. And then, well, we're running the chronograph, but of course we have that nicely painted red chronograph counting second counter. Other than that, on the dial, we also have the outer chapter ring, and it's deep. It really does recess the dial down inside the case, which is probably why the case is a little bit thicker than it maybe needs to be. It's not overly thick. It's certainly not a problem. But because of how deep that chapter ring is, the sloping angle, it does set everything down into the case, fairly shallow, I guess. But it's nice looking. All of the printing on the chapter ring is crisp and clear, very legible. If you're wanting to measure, out to fifths of seconds there, you can see very clearly that we're pointing at about 11 and 2/5 seconds there. So the chapter ring is nicely done. Just a little deeper, a little steeper of a slope than some of the other watches that I'm used to with that style of chapter ring. We didn't talk about the case back, and it's not really all that interesting, but I'll give you guys a quick look at it. It's a screw-down case back. It's fairly flat, which is nice, so the watch rides low to your wrist. We got Seiko branding there. Water resist 10 bar, stainless steel, Movement Japan 6T63- I don't know, I can't hardly read that, but it doesn't really matter. That's all we really have there. Pretty undecorated. But I'll give you guys a quick look at that. The crown, again, is not screwed down at all. You pull the crown out to the first position and you can quick set the date. Pull the crown out to the second position, and it does hack the movement, so you can see that the current running seconds hand stopped. Interesting, the chronograph continues to run even when the crown is pulled out all the way. In this position you can set the time, and it's quite precise. Some watches, when you're setting the time, there's lots of like back play and wiggle. You can see that setting the minute hand on this particular example works pretty good. Push the crown back in, current seconds continues to run. It's pretty basic. It's what you would expect, but it works good, and the quality seems to be fairly decent. I'm gonna go ahead and reset that chronograph. There's no need to have it running anymore. The last thing to really cover about this guy is the bracelet, and that's sort of, I don't want to call it a problem area on this watch, but I have a problem with it. The quality of it is decent. First things first, if you look at the center links, and you couldn't tell this by the pictures, you can see there's this little, I don't know, bevel on every center link towards the south side. It's fine, I guess. I don't love that design choice, but it's okay. You couldn't tell that from the pictures online before I bought it, so I want to give you guys a really clear look at that. All of the center links feature that same sort of effect with this weird little notch or bevel rather. But other than that, it is overall brushed links, nice looking. They're solid links. They're not those cheap folded links. The interesting thing about the links, though, is it's a very thin link. For example, I want to say it was like about 2.5 to 3 millimeters thick. That is pretty thin. For example, here's another watch. This is just an Invicta dive watch. Look at how thick these links are by comparison. Maybe a hair over 5. So, and that's fairly typical for what I experience on all of my watches that come on a bracelet. Somewhere between 4 and 6 millimeter thick links, and it feels substantial in your hand. When you pick up this Seiko, these links, they do feel thin. Not like bad quality or anything. It's just, again, maybe around 3 millimeters or just a hair under 3 millimeters thick. So anywhere from 1 to 2 millimeters thinner than what you might typically find on a Seiko bracelet. It's an interesting thing to point out. I don't want to say again that it's bad. It's a comfortable bracelet, and it feels like it's decent quality. There's a little bit of flex in it, as you can see. It does just feel lightweight. I guess that's one way to describe it. If you're looking for a watch that's not heavy on the wrist, because of how thin these links are, this is certainly going to be an excellent option for you. Another problem with the bracelet is the clasp, and while it's okay quality, it's basically dual deploy, or dual push button deployment clasp, typical swing arm, very thin folded stamped steel, and the clasp material itself is very thin. The problem I have with it is there is only 2 micro adjustment holes there, and here's the issue that I have with that. I cannot get this bracelet to get a comfortable fit on my wrist. Now, this is not going to be a problem for everybody. You might have a slightly thicker or a slightly thinner wrist than me, and you're going to get an excellent fit. The problem is if I'm kind of in between. So I'm either taking out a link and putting the micro adjustment to the outer edge one, and it feels a little too tight, or I put in a link and move the micro adjustment into the inner notch, and it feels a little too loose. I can't get the perfect, comfortable fit that I want out of this wristwatch. So I'm probably going to end up wearing it on NATO straps or a leather strap much more often than I am on this bracelet. That's just, the way it is. Maybe there are little products out there that you can use to extend the clasp of a bracelet. Maybe I'll try that out. You kind of put it, you take out this little pin here and you slide it in there, and then it gives you 3-4 more little micro adjustments, and then the bracelet attaches to that little piece of metal that you sort of wedge in between there. I might try that out as well. I just found those on Amazon. They're about $10, but more than likely I'll just wear it on a NATO and deal with it. It's not an issue for me. I think that this looks really nice on a black leather strap with that black bezel. I'm sure it would look really nice on a nice black NATO too, or I've tried it on my black and gray Bond NATO. I didn't really like it. I showed it to a friend and he said he thought it looked great. Personal style, whatever. So anyway, that's basically everything I can tell you about this guy. I think that, again, it is an excellent alternative, affordable budget alternative to the Omega Speedmaster. It's a stand-in. It's attractive. It's decent quality. Seiko quality for the $150 price point. If you own Seiko watches, you probably know what to expect. Nothing like masterful craftsmanship that you're gonna find on an Omega, but good quality. It's gonna perform. It's gonna do everything you want. I do recommend it. I like it, and I'm happy I found it. Again, I'm surprised that it is not talked about and recommended more within the watch collecting community and watch collecting circles. It's definitely underappreciated, and I just wanted to bring it to the table and show it to you guys. I hope you liked it. If you want to help out the channel, if you're interested in buying this, I'll have a link to it on Amazon. It also has a brother. This is SSB031. It also has a 033 brother, which has a stainless steel bezel instead of the black bezel, and the subdials are colored a little bit differently. It's really sharp looking too. So I'll put links to both of them, and if you decide that you want to purchase either one of those, if you do it through my affiliate link, I get a small commission, which helps the channel out tremendously. I'll also have links down there to my social media accounts: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon. If you guys want to look into those and join up, that would be cool too. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off here. Just wanted to bring this video to the table and let you guys check it out. Thanks for everything. Bye.